Okay, so when this young man here had mentioned to me about coming back, I think Frank was here a few months ago, and Gustavo, which is a guy that works with us. Before I do all that, let me just say yes, thank you for having me. My name is Keith Carter. Yes, that's my wife Rose. We're we're close to Wilmington, North Carolina, if anybody's familiar with that neck of the woods. And so we drove 5 hours, and coming down some of these mountain roads, if you take the wrong 23 business, you got problems, because you're not going to end up here. But luckily, I gave myself plenty of time to get here. So anyway, when you had mentioned this about coming back here, I did a few local churches and made these presentations because we were having missionary nights, and people going up were talking about their mission work. And I thought, well, this is a form of mission work, but it's a different type of mission work. So I was able to kind of practice this a bit with some of the local churches. So anyway, for those of you, and everybody here will probably know names like J. Warner Wallace, Norm Geiser, William Lane Craig. By the way, has anyone ever read a book by William Lane Craig? Okay. Has anyone ever heard him speak? All right. I first got introduced through Apologetics to a William Lane Craig lecture, and he spoke English for an hour and a half. I didn't know what a word he said. So I read his book. I said, man, this is harder than college. I mean, how is he going to speak to the masses if he's speaking, unless he just wants to speak to the intellectuals of the world? I assume you two may be intellectuals, because I'm not. But anyway, I remember finding, I don't understand this thing with apologetics. Doesn't seem to jive with me. I mean, I didn't even know what it was. What? I'm not apologizing. I didn't know what this thing was. What I discovered, though, was it's almost like a subculture to Christianity, because most, at least in my neck of the woods, no one doesn't know what that is. So when I gave this presentation to my church, a lot of people, they maybe, it kind of sounded familiar. So I'm kind of just doing a lot of basic stuff you guys maybe already know. So here's the guy that I work with. This is the guy that's coming back September 1st. His name is Dr. Frank Turek. Maybe will you lower the lights?
Everyone's asking tough questions.
They think because, they believe in God that they're better than me.
We don't have evidence of that.
How much faith do you need? You would murder your wife or children to prove your devotion.
The thing that makes the Bible unbelievable are the miracles that are in it.
God explains X, Y, and Z. How do you know that?
Why is it so hard if this is the truth?
Everyone's asking the big question. What's your question?
Aren't we supposed to just have faith? Blind faith. Just believe.
No, 1,000 times no. I think you ought to be a Christian because it's really true. And you can show it's really true.
Want real answers to life's biggest questions? Subscribe to CrossExamined's channel. Tough questions, truth in the heat of the moment.
If Christianity were true, would you become a Christian?
Love always perseveres. You don't protect people when you're approving of the evil they're doing. You're doing the opposite. Knock it off. I know this is not popular in our culture today, but there's no such thing as my truth or your truth. There's just the truth.
I think it takes more faith to believe that we would have the kind of Christianity that came out of the first century today if Jesus hadn't risen from the dead.
Because Christianity did not start with a book. Christianity started with an event, the resurrection.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone you love will die. Everything you build will crumble. Everything you say will be forgotten. Everything you do will come to nothing. You and your identity will die and vanish. Your life is meaningless unless the resurrection is true.
Let's put the lights back on for me. All right, so you guys when I made this presentation back home, a lot of folks didn't know who Frank Turek is, but you guys are well informed here. So, I think when you got that kind of stuff coming off stage, you should have a guitar. It's like Doug Cole's first calls. Cosmological argument, hit a few bars. But ever since the incident with Charlie Kirk, Frank's level has risen. This guy's so popular now I have to go through his agent just to speak to him. I'm doing work for him. I can't even get this guy on the phone because he's traveling so much, speaking so much, and yeah, he's a super busy guy. So who am I? My name is Keith Carter. Have you guys ever met a hack, an embellisher, someone who's more of a thief than an artist? Well, that's me. So I am working in graphics and animation for, I don't know, since it's been 40 years, I guess, in the business. And the best thing I've learned about myself is I've learned how to be a creative thief. But working as a creative thief, I've actually had a chance to work with a lot of companies. But before I get into that, let me just to hook you in who I am. Here's some clips of some things I've worked on. This is my promo reel back in the maybe 2007, 2009 when I was in Washington, D.C. So I used to show this reel to television stations, to movies, to production companies to try to get the first meeting. This didn't get me the job, this just got me the meeting. So baby, hit those likes for me. And it's not HD, this is back when it was just standard definition. So basically, that either got me the next meeting or it didn't get the next meeting. And a lot of times it would get another meeting, but it doesn't mean that I got the job. But it just shows, a variety of the things that I could do and some of the people that were working with me. So some of the clients I've had throughout my time as a professional, I have worked with National Geographic, USA Today, the Smithsonian, Lucasfilms, Disney, Marvel, Washington Post, Topps Trading Cards for anybody who are baseball fans, ABC, PBS, CNN, NFL, Major League Baseball, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I won an Emmy back in 2009 for this set of commercials called Savings Man for ABC. Savings Man was, he tried to help you for a better future, but beware of credit card guy. It's really silly. I assume they must have had nobody else to give an Emmy to that year if we got this. It was very silly. But anyway. I say all this not to be to be a braggart. I say all this because I feel like I have a dust speck of talent, but I feel like I've got a lot of opportunities. It reminds me of the book of Exodus when Joseph, something in Scripture, it says that everything he did was met with success because the Lord was with him. I feel like the Lord has always been with me even when I wasn't with him. In order for me to do all the things that I've done. Is anybody familiar with a guy named Woody Allen? Any Woody Allen fans? Okay, Woody Allen says 99% of success is just showing up. I just showed up. I wasn't the best one in the room. Let's say we got a room with super talented here. Everyone got tired of waiting, but this young lady stayed, and 2 hours later she's still there. All right, bring her in. I was one of those guys. Also, I really, as I've gotten older, I realized likability goes a long ways. Any of you guys out here think they're likable? Well, I'm a very likable guy, in case you can't tell. Everyone really likes me. If you don't know, in time you'll know. But anyway, when you're working with clients, you want to be a very easy to get along with person. Well, this is presupposed this young man right here, super talented. He is like everyone bids this guy, but this guy's a prima donna. He never makes his deadlines. He's always complaining. We got this man with the bow tie here. He's very agreeable, very pleasant. He's not as talented as this guy, but he's a solid pro professional. They know he'll make his deadline every time. So they like what this guy's got, but deadlines, missing deadlines means money. So this guy's going to get more jobs than this guy. But that's how I always approach my work, is try to be someone that is available, someone that's likable, someone that's easy to work with, and always make deadlines. And it doesn't mean I'm always going to make the best product out there, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So this next little clip I'm going to show is, I showed a bunch of videos, animation and video production stuff. So this is some of the print work that I've done through the years. And it's going to be kind of varied all over the place. This is some of the things I did with Marvel for the adults. I forgot I worked with Paramount Studios on the Star Wars stuff. 3D posters. I don't even know what this is. Something else we did when the Iron Man movie came out with I forgot, with Lucasfilm Star Wars. This is some stuff we did with the San Diego Comic-Con, with the baseball cards for the top stuff I was telling you about. I don't know what this is. Oh, it's a Japanese company, Ultraman. If you're already familiar with Ultraman, I did a movie called Orlok the Vampire in 3D. Book covers, storyboards for films. This was the album cover for some punk guy. He only lived a year later after the album came out. Yeah, more stuff. This is some of the stuff I did with Frank, which you can see over here. More cover work. Okay, so this is an interesting point. Curse of the Private. So I wrote this script 10 years ago. I had a producer that bought the script and was trying to make the movie, and we were having so much trouble. She's still trying to find financing for it, but the struggle for this movie is it's based on the legend back where I'm from, and in the we're going to get to Apologetics, I promise. So anyway, this movie is based on my tribe, the Coharie tribe, and there's about 3,000 of us that live in Sampson County. And so they didn't like that I had been a mixture of horror meets Native American folktales meets Christian theology, because these 3,000 Indians are followers of Christ. So Hollywood couldn't get their head around, wait a minute, hold on a second now, is this a Christian film? No, it's not a Christian film, but yet they couldn't understand, because they had a perception of how Indians are portrayed in film, and they couldn't get their head around about a bunch of Indians worshiping Jesus. So that's will also put a lot of stall and delay on productions with this. So anyway, I show you these clips to give you a sense of, who I am, what I've done, and thinking, well, how in the world do I end up in apologetics? How did I end up with meeting with Frank Turek? So I think it was around when I was 53, USA Today, company I was working for, decided to retire me. Because we had a big change in the economy, and the journalists, is anybody in journalism major, by the way? Okay, dude. There's issues out there, you probably already know. There's no walk in the park, man. Oh my gosh. So anyway, people were losing jobs. I was looking around one day, I got up and where did everybody go? Everyone got let go. They got retired. I got retired. I thought I had 2 more years, but finally they retired me, and I was living in Washington, D.C. My wife and I moved back to North Carolina because my mom had also passed away, and so they left a house, a beach house, and all this farmland. And so all of a sudden, I said it would be better down in North Carolina, in a small little town called Warsaw. You ever heard of Warsaw? Well, come on, you've heard of Warsaw? How do you know Warsaw?
Yeah, isn't that near the coast? Am I wrong?
Well, no, that's going the right way, but yeah, that's impressive. Oh, do you know it too?
No.
Okay.
I know Warsaw, Indiana.
Okay. Oh, right. There's more Indiana. Right. Okay. Very good. That's right.
Candy.
My neighbor is from there. Yeah, Warsaw, Indiana.
That's where I went to seminary.
Interesting. So anyway, in the small town where I'm from, which the big thing is we got a Piggly Wiggly. Anyway, by having the house is already paid for, everything's very affordable, we were free. My wife was free from work, and I was free from work. I was free from the man. I'm like, yes! So what can I do now? So I have to work with clients, and I can do my own art. But what would it be? I don't know. So I'm exploring all these thoughts. And as a Christian man, this thought came to my mind, and it says, well, what if the Lord set you free for a reason? I thought, okay. I didn't know what that was. Now, before I go any further, I want to do this, because last time I was here, I got in the Q&A, and because, you guys don't know me, someone said, well, how did you become a Christian? So I said, and I started making that a part of my talk now, because, right, people know who you are. Why are you with the Lord? Why are you with Christ? How did Christ convince you? So I'm going to go into that part right now. So back in 92, 93, living in Washington, D.C., I remember I was walking, because I used to work in the National Press Building, and if anybody familiar with D.C. too much? Anyway, the National Press Building is downtown, and I live near Georgetown, so I would walk a 30-minute walk, had to go by the White House and all that stuff. And I used to go to this place called Tower Records. Now, that Tower Records is gone, but back in the day, man, that was the place to get your music, get your videos, whatever. So I'm walking through there, and I see this DVD called Jesus of Nazareth. Have you guys ever seen this movie? It is an 8-hour event they used to play on Easter. This movie is fantastic. You want to see a great a film version of Christ, play this movie. Then when he gets ready to be crucified, then put in Mel Gibson, The Passion of the Christ. And that is the best cinematic version of Christ on film. Well, anyway, what stopped me in my tracks was this image. This guy's name is Robert Powell. He's from England. Well, when I looked at this thing, I immediately thought about this picture that my mom and dad have in their house. My grandma has this picture, my aunts. I mean, this is all over Sampson County, North Carolina. And this is a painting by Warner Salman. Back in the 40s, he was commissioned by a church, I can't name the organization that hired him. And the reason it's got such wide distribution, have you guys all seen this picture? It's because when the soldiers went into World War II, they all got an image of this to put in their pockets, because these dudes needed hope, because, they're going to a place they may or not return. But anyway, I couldn't get past how they found a guy that looked like this. So now I got this movie, because I had to at least watch and see if he looks like this on film. Of course, he looks absolutely like, he's fantastic. So I got so interested in this film, I said, well, I'd like to see some more details. Like when you're watching a film, sometimes if you read a film based on a book, then you go back and read the book, there's more details in the book. So I picked up this Bible. When I was 10 years old, my mom and dad, was anybody a G.I. Joe fan? You were a G.I. Joe fan? No, you like the little Joes, right? Yeah.
Them and we had the bigger ones too.
No way. Now, was it because of your dad? How'd you get involved with G.I. Joes?
I don't know, I played with a lot of toy toys when I was a kid.
Very nice. Okay, well, I was a big G.I. Joe fan too. When I was 10 years old, I had the training quarter headset, I can't remember these other things. It was a headquarters something. Well, anyway, mobile attack unit. But anyway, with almost all this great stuff, my parents also gave me this little children's Bible. Now, when that came in from the G.I. Joe stuff, oh, thank you, Mom. Dad is back here. I never opened this book. This book stayed pristine mint until I saw this movie. Now, because of my upbringing, I did go to church. I did go to Sunday school. I went to, Bible school or vacation Bible school. But none of that penetrated. I was just there to the last for my friends. It was more like a cultural thing. That's what we did back then. So, anyway, but because of my upbringing, I always carried this with me wherever I went, even though I never opened it. So after this movie, I opened this book and I started reading it. I thought, wow, there's so much more detail that's not in the movie, and even in the movie it's greatly detailed. But this book opened my eyes to a journey that was beginning I didn't know. So what else is happening around this time? Do you guys remember in 90... Were you guys born in 93? No? Okay, I'm sorry. So do you guys remember this thing about Waco, Texas? Anybody remember that? So in 93, in Waco, Texas, there was this big to do with, and I'm thinking, was it David Koresh?
David Koresh.
David Koresh.
Branch Davidians.
Yes. So it was a huge story too, and of course we were working the news, and what happens? Of course, this whole thing, the camp burns, the leader is killed, the cult is killed, and so we did a graphic that talked about cults, and we covered him. We covered Jim Jones. We covered this guy named Charles. I think it's Charles Applegate. There were several ones that we spoke of and wrote about. But as I was reading these stories, something occurred to me. I said, usually when the cult leader dies, the cult dies with it. And as I was reading through now my children's Bible, I said, Jesus was a cult. He only had like 500 some followers following him according to the book of Acts. I said, but why didn't his cult die when he died? Now, another thing that happened that Easter, and again, this is a process over a few years. Over Easter, we also do graphics. You can see when Easter comes, you see Newsweek or Time or whatever doing little stories about Jesus, who is the real Jesus, things like that. So we were, covering all these graphics and stuff. So we had a big old book on world religions. And for some reason, I had this thought in my head when I saw this book. I said, I wonder how many people call themselves the Son of God. And so I started looking, and again, there was 10 major religions, 15 minor religions, and I'm flipping through there, and there was prophets of God, messengers of God, whatever of God, but there was only one dude that called himself the Son of God. I thought to myself, man, this guy's got a lot of balls. Now the balls the size of Texas. I'm like, no one else had the gall to do this, but he did. And so in my head, I felt like I came to a conclusion that even thinking about it, I said, this guy's either a nut or he is who he says he is. Well, when he died, why didn't his cult die? And also another thing that was in this book, it said now there was 1.6 billion followers of this man named Christ. That's almost a quarter of the quarter of the people on the earth. And I'm thinking, why would that many people follow this guy if he was a nut? And again, I'm just processing this. I'm asking myself these questions. And as I'm going through it, and someone, I don't know, I could have led me to this, I can't remember, but there was also this thing about how the apostles died. We know about Peter from the scriptures, but then there was things that weren't in the scriptures. It was talked about, Andrew, and it was talking about James, and everyone. I think everyone horrifically died except John. And so, no, actually, he was being boiled and oil, but he didn't die because the Lord wasn't done with him. But St. Andrew died sideways. As a matter of fact, you ever seen the Scottish flag? That's a St. Andrew, that's a sideways cross. It looks like an X, like the X-Men, but it's called St. Andrew died with the cross sideways. And for 3.5 days he lived. Before he died, he lived, and he did what? What do you think he did for 3.5 days on that cross? Well, it wasn't called the gospel then, but he preached the gospel. I'm like, this is the end of your life, man. At this point, you should be espousing whatever. Whatever's coming at this point has got to be true. That's the only thing I keep coming to. James, who was connected to his jailer, they were locked together, and because if he escaped, he was responsible. And so, the whole time he was talking to him, he spoke only about Christ and the works of Christ. So when he went to get himself beheaded, jailer said, well, I believe what he believes. And he got beheaded too. I'm like, man, these guys had conviction. These guys had something. Something has changed, because as I was, again, reading in my children's Bible here, as you guys know, is when Jesus was arrested, everyone fled. The story of Peter denying him 3 times. I'm saying to myself, they were more afraid when he was alive. Why now are they less afraid? Matter of fact, they're not even afraid at all. They're not afraid to be, jailed or to do or meet with the establishment. They're not even afraid of death. So I'm thinking, what's happened? And the only thing I keep coming back to is it possible they saw something that defied the natural world. They saw something supernatural. They saw what Christ said he was going to do. He rose from the dead. That's the only thing I kept thinking in my head. How is that possible? How is this possible? And the last moment I had in my little studio when I was in Georgetown there. Hey, can I get a water? Has anybody got a water here?
I
have a water here.
I thought my throat's going dry on me.
We got donuts.
In the time using BC and AD. I'm saying, okay. BC is before Christ. AD in the year of our Lord. How do you pronounce it in Latin? Anybody? Say it again.
Domini.
That's it, man. In the year of our Lord. I said, how do we as civilized people FaceTime on the death of this guy? I'm now processing all this stuff. It's just, and it's just coming at me. And then finally I just said, there's too many things that's just lining up here. Is this one giant thing of coincidence happening? Is it? Or is it, this dude is who he says he is? And on that night, I said, all right, Lord, I'm in. I'm in. And at that point, that started my journey with the Lord. So those that would say, well, how did the Lord convince you? This is it. So that's how I ended up becoming a Christian. That started my walk with Jesus. So anyway, since I've been boring with my stuff, let me hit a video for you. This is a video of one of the type of work I do with Dr. Turek. Oh, also let me just say this. I forgot when we first started doing these videos, we did a bunch of video clips before to kind of do some behind the scenes stuff. So I'll be explaining something, then Frank will be explaining something, and the video will play. So when Frank wrote his latest book with his son, Hollywood Heroes, I remember they had the publisher already had a book trailer, and I guess no one was really happy with it. And so there was like, what can we do to try to bring some dynamics to this production? However, I also had to use the same soundtrack and the same voice track, so I couldn't change none of that. So I had to time everything they already created to that by using, their audio and so forth. And so for myself, I remember thinking, all right, if that's my limitation, so I knew I had to do this much quicker than I usually do. I think it was like, maybe 3 weeks. So I relied on a lot of things I had already created from older productions. And I just redesigned it, recompositioned it, so, because I needed to move a lot quicker and something to be done in 2 to 3 weeks. But when it was done, it felt more dynamic. It had a nice brush of color. It had this zeal, I want to see read this book. Matter of fact, we had one comment. Someone said this was better than the Spider-Man trailer, or whatever that movie it was that came out at the time. But anyway, yeah, a short, quick, 30-second book trailer. And I didn't even know they made book trailers until this production.
In a world obsessed with superhero movies, is there anything to learn about God on the big screen? More than you think. Discover how your favorite heroes in movies reveal God. Hollywood Heroes, coming soon to a book retailer near you.
So, when I said that question, what the Lord set me free for a reason? Man, the Lord set me free to do the things I've learned in the world, all my years of experience in productions and art and so forth, to actually use it in ministry. Did I think that was something that was going to be possible? Absolutely not. I did not. So, how I got involved with Frank is I had a neighbor. She and I were having a discussion one day, or a sister rather, and she was asking me questions about some very serious things concerning her church elders. And anyway, I was trying to get an idea where she was spiritually. So I started asking her a few questions. And the more questions I kept asking, the more things she would say, well, Keith, that's not true. Or Keith, that's a moral story. Or Keith, no, that's another thing that you can learn from. That didn't really happen. I thought, my gosh, this woman doesn't believe anything in the Bible. So then I just went right to the gospel. And I said, do you believe Christ died for the sins of humanity? And she says, I believed. He believed it. And I said, why is this woman even calling herself a Christian? I don't even know why she goes to church. Unless I said, well, maybe she's just a cultural Christian. Has nothing to do with, she believes if this is real or not. She likes the moral counsel that she gets from here. So anyway, I realized I couldn't talk to her about anything concerning this because this is fairy tales to her. So I called a buddy of mine. His name is George Gill. He also works in CrossExamined. And I asked him, I told him about my predicament. I said, do you have any advice or anything, literature that maybe I could read? And this is when he turned me on to this book. Who's read this book? I don't have enough faith being atheist. When I read this book, man, I was like, oh my gosh. This really, I felt excited. I felt elated by this. And so I knew that Frank was going to be speaking at the university near me, I think in Wilmington. So I went to hear him speak. And of course, when I heard him speak, this guy was informative, he was educational, and he was entertaining. I never thought Frank was funny. He was funny on that stage. And I said, and he got my attention. I said, I wonder, I didn't know how the Lord would use him, but I knew I was excited here, so I thought, well, let me approach them and see if there's something that maybe I can bring to the table. And of course, I shared the kind of things I did with various productions and taking hard to explain issues and news and science and so forth, and made easy animations for people to follow. Maybe some of this academic discussions, maybe we can break that down to make the general populace to maybe understand. Because unless you're going to speak to just the academia of the world, dudes like me, I'm not going to understand this. So if I don't understand it, the general populace is not going to understand it. So that's, when it comes to me, I said, all right, Frank, let's break this baby down. And he does a really good job with that. So, with that being said, I find it very interesting that when the Lord brought me to him, he convinced me that he was the way. It was interesting that he brought me through information. He brought me through a path of logic, brought me through reasoning, not knowing that this is the kind of work that I would end up doing. So let me show a few more clips here of some things I've done with Dr. Turek.
I love all the animation that Keith Carter put in this one, especially the little sound effects. But that is an entire chapter of I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist summarized in just a few minutes. And I just love all that. Keith, how did you do that? How did you have that hand moving along? How does that even work?
So basically, I mean, that's my hand, but it's like doing stop motion. I did all the drawings first, and then I took pictures of my hand in different motion, and so I just moved it along to give the illusion I really drew it on the screen. But it's another cheap trick I learned in television.
Either the universe is the uncaused first cause, or something beyond the universe is the uncaused first cause. The problem is that all the evidence points to the fact that the universe is not the uncaused first cause. I'll give it to you very briefly in an acronym, SURGE, S-U-R-G-E. S stands for the second law of thermodynamics, which says that the universe is running down. Well, if it's running down, somebody must have wound it up. We have no energy left right now if the universe was eternal. The U stands for the fact that the universe is expanding, and Hubble detected that back in 1929. It shows that everything came from a single point, so the universe had a beginning. The R in SURGE stands for the radiation afterglow. That's the remnant heat discovered by Penzias and Wilson in 1965, which is literally the smoking gun for the Big Bang. The G in SURGE stands for the great galaxy seeds, which were very fine temperature variations in that radiation afterglow that allowed the galaxies to form in the early universe. And the E stands for Einstein's theory of general relativity, which shows that time, space, and matter are correlative, that they came into existence together, that space, time, and matter literally had a beginning. The evidence points to the fact that the universe is not the uncaused first cause.
Check it out, it's my hand. So, working with Frank now, he's giving us opportunity. We started with a 3-month trial basis, and now we're into 8 years. I hardly ever see the guy. It's like working for the Invisible Man. This guy's so busy traveling and speaking and writing books and doing this and doing that. I really, am I almost self-motivated here, and my responsibility is to go through his lectures, go through his books, go and just repurpose material. That was a chapter in one, and I think in this book right here, to repurpose it. And matter of fact, break this down for so anyone can understand. That really, all that's saying is the first line in the scripture. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. There's now scientific evidence to support it. The Big Bang theory is now the Big Bang fact. It's so accurate that all the atheists now are trying to find ways to back out of this and start looking at something like parallel universes or multi-universes. Now, as a sci-fi fan, I find it very fascinating. But as far as evidence goes, there's nothing to support it. So anyway, so Frank is doing things like this. I'm working on this work with him. But sometimes, like as you know, I just saw a thing in your newspaper talking about roommates not getting along here and having friction. So sometimes we have friction, working in this world. And so I remember when I first started, in the first handful of months, Frank and I butted heads on something. And it was something that I think was just a miscommunication. I didn't understand exactly what he was looking for. And the problem was, he likes to communicate through email, and email, some things don't get translated. So I realized I need to speak to him directly on the phone so I don't misunderstand. But anyway, we're having this discussion one night, and he's just, Frank is an alpha male, but he didn't also realize he was talking to another alpha male, and so he was projecting on me. I think to myself, I'm free, I wouldn't have to do this. I was at the point, I was like, you know what? Well, Frank, all the best to you, man. Good luck. But I didn't. I kept my mouth quiet, and I'm just digesting everything. Anyway, on that evening, one of the people at our church, I guess their Wednesday night Bible study, someone had gotten sick, so they needed to find someone quick, so they called me at 4 o'clock, things got to 7. I had nothing prepared, but I had this month's worth of work that Frank didn't like. I guess I could just, show that and talk about that. So, and again, I think this was God-given. So I go to this, that evening for the Bible study, doing this presentation for Frank, and as I'm watching from the side, watching Frank talk, I was able to step outside of myself and said, what he's doing is very important. What he's doing is he's speaking to a world that doesn't even want to hear about Christ. I mean, he's out on the front lines, man. I'm thinking, I got to get my head out of my egg, because this is my pride talking. This is not, this is bigger than me. This is bigger than Frank. This is the God of the universe. I need to get a grip here. And so, by able to see that, I called him that night. I said, Frank, dude, whatever we have to do, we're going to do. We're going to make this right for you, to make you happy. But I'm glad I had that experience, because what that showed me is that there's people that's doing mission work. They're putting their lives at danger. I fact, I was reading a book named Don Richardson, and he wrote a book called The Peace Child. You guys ever heard of this? This guy raised his family for 20 years. He was a linguist, and he taught for 20 years these cannibals called the Sawi people. Not only did he learn the language, he taught them the language, and then he taught them how to read and write. Then he had to translate a Bible. 20 years. And I said, this guy is he's at the doing the work of the Lord. I think when he goes in front of the Lord's going to say, well done. I can't say, I'm going to get a well done. I'm going to get into heaven because of the Lord. But is he going to tell me well done? Maybe I'll get a, I don't know. But my point is, I had the most cushiest mission work. I'm sitting in my little cubicle, my studio. I've got space here at my feet, and I'm watching reruns of Beverly Hills 90210 while I'm working. So if I can't handle that, and I'm getting upset because of my pride, what kind of mission worker am I? Pathetic mission worker. That's what I am. So anyway, I'm glad to have that experience so I keep it in perspective, put it in perspective. So anyway, it's without question. Let me just read this. This is Luke 12:48. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him much shall be required. I don't know about you guys and ladies, but I've been blessed. I'm living in the promised land, and mine is still falling from heaven. So I'm doing this and glad that the Lord has given me the opportunity. And I say all this here to say to you guys and ladies, there's something out there for you as well. Everyone here is uniquely got something that makes them them. Some talent, and again, I don't know what it is, but the Lord knows. And He wants to use it for His mission work. We are plan A. There is no plan B. We are the plan A. So if you got something out there, you don't have to wait, I was as long as I did, because I was in the world trying to find my success. I wasn't with the Lord. But if you're with the Lord now, then get out there and find your thing and do your thing for the Lord, And what opportunities blossom? All I know is I pitched this idea for this comic here for Frank. And again, I got the idea when I saw him when he's making the presentation, then there's the Q&A, there's all these people in line. He doesn't have the time to answer all these questions. So he says, I'll give you a book, will you read it? And of course, you guys students, you don't have a 400-page book to read, but you got enough to read as is. I said, Frank, what if we took your principles and broke it down like Cliff Notes? And then, of course, anime and comics are really huge, and for the young folks, let's make it like a comic book. And I send them a script, I send them some page examples, and he said, let's go for it. This little thing has now become his #1 seller. Now, is it because of me? No, it's because of the price point. This is $5, this is $20. All his books are $15, $20. It's easier to buy this book, but because of that, this thing is his #1 seller. So I'm pitching him another one later this year for another topic, because if these are selling that well, then let's try to put some more work out there. But again, drawing 20-some pages of art. Is anybody an artist in here? Man, it's a lot of work. You probably know that. Yeah, it's no walk in the park. But anyway, I have a couple more videos here I will show you. I'm looking at my time here. About 5 minutes. We're looking good? We're looking good? So this I'm going to show a couple more examples. This is one video when Frank is available. Then there's a video when Frank is not available. I have to make a little puppet Frank. So anyway, you'll see.
Most of the time, evidence isn't the issue for people. They don't want Christianity to be true because they don't want to give up their autonomy to a God who is in control. They want to be God. They want to be God over their own lives. So sometimes just asking the question can help clear the decks of any objections and not only help you understand where the person is coming from, but it can help them understand when they have to admit that they're really not in it to discover what is true. They want to believe what they want to believe. And so I think this is a very important video to wake people up. Always ask the question, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? If the person hesitates or says no, evidence isn't their problem, they are their problem.
The one question I ask people who are not Christians is this: if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? I've had atheists stand at microphones in front of hundreds of people on college campuses. I ask them that question: if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And they say no. And I go, no! How's that reasonable? How's that rational? It's not. The problem isn't here, the problem's here. They don't want it to be true.
They don't want there to be a God. Why? Because they want to be God. They want to be God of their own lives.
They have a moral objection to God. In fact, one famous atheist, Thomas Nagel, said, I have a cosmic authority problem. I don't want there to be a God.
See, most of us, we're not on a truth quest, we're on a happiness quest. And we're just going to believe whatever we think is going to make us happy. Here's the problem: you can make yourself happy over the short term, doing a lot of fun but ultimately destructive things, yet over the long term it's a disaster.
And everyone watching this video who's over 40 knows what I'm talking about, because most of us have tried it. The only way to get true contentment and happiness is to go straight through truth. And Jesus is the truth. So, ask the question, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? If the person says yes, then give them some evidence. If they hesitate or say no, the problem isn't here, the problem's here. Just stay in their lives, pray for them, and love them, and maybe there'll be an opportunity in the future.
All right, when Frank Turk's not available, I have to do things like this.
This might be the most relevant video we've done for our culture, because so many people think following your heart is a good idea and the way they're going to find true happiness, when in fact, if they follow their heart without moral restraint, they're going to wind up in a very dark place. So out of all the videos, this might be the most relevant, and I thought Keith did a great job of putting all those little animations in there, and that little pirate sound for the For the guy who said, well, Bill Maher said, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pirate. Thank God nobody took me seriously. It took me for eye removal and peg leg surgery. Arr! That was brilliant right there, ladies and gentlemen. Follow your heart. Do whatever your heart tells you to do. Is that really a good idea? There are at least 3 reasons why it's not only unwise, but it's actually impossible to consistently follow your heart. Reason number 1, our hearts are deceitful and selfish. The prophet Jeremiah said, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Take a minute and just ask yourself, is it easier to be bad or good? Do you have to work at being selfish or selfless? You don't have to teach a 2-year-old to say mine. You have to teach a 2-year-old to share. Why? Because human nature is selfish from birth. Our hearts are also deceptive. They deceive us into thinking we must have something and we must have it now. It's only after it's too late that we experience the awful consequences of blindly following our impulses. The truth is, if we follow our hearts without wisdom and moral restraint, we will, by nature, act in very selfish and destructive ways. And we can't train or educate ourselves out of this situation either. As C.S. Lewis wisely observed, education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man a more clever devil. Reason number 2, our hearts are conflicting. Our hearts are not only selfish and deceitful, they are also conflicting. Notice that we often have 2 hearts warring within us. We want that shiny new car, but we don't want the debt. We want to get married, but we still want to be free to play the field. We want to have children, but we don't want the responsibility. So which heart are you going to follow? Since we are often conflicted, the road to happiness will require us to say no to many of our heart's desires. Author John Mark Comer put it brilliantly. Giving in to the desires of our flesh does not lead us to freedom in life, as many people assume, but instead to slavery and, in the worst case scenario, addiction, which is a kind of prolonged suicide by pleasure. The third reason is our hearts are changing. Do you have all the same desires you had 20 years ago, 10 years ago? How about 5 years ago? Not completely, because your heart changes and grows. This is especially true of the young. Kids go through phases because puberty is one big, long transition from child to adult. It's normal to feel odd during that time. But hearts change. Did you know that about 80% of young teens who experience true gender dysphoria grow out of it by the time they're 18? So why would anyone permanently disfigure and sterilize a child by encouraging them to follow an immature heart that will probably change on its own very soon? Real-time host Bill Maher drove this part home, saying when he was a kid, I wanted to be a pirate. Thank God no one scheduled me for eye removal and peg leg surgery. Question, what should we do with our hearts? King Solomon was nearly led to despair by blindly following his heart. He wrote this urgent proverb, above all else, guard your heart because everything you do flows from it. Guard your heart by seeking wisdom and eternal hope from God. Otherwise, your selfish, conflicting, and changing heart will often take you down the wrong path.
Baby, close light for me. So guys, I am not a theologian, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an academic, I'm just a lowly graphic artist. But I'm working for the God of the universe. And unless the atheists are right, and there's a multiverse, then maybe in the future I can do a lateral move. But given the evidence, I think this is the only universe. I'm working for the highest authority out there, so I'm very proud and happy. Looking forward to our next project that's coming up. And anyway, that's it for me. And if you guys, time for Q&A, we can do some Q&A. If you guys want to do it, we can do it. Oh, you got a question already?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, just with what you do, I mean, you've experienced so much and like been around so many different kinds of people. So I'm just curious if you've had any pushback with your Christianity and the work that you've done, like from different organizations.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I was just asking if he's gotten any pushback from like the different organizations that he's worked with and worked for about like just being a Christian and what you do. If they've asked you any questions or anything like that.
So I have to say I haven't experienced that because when I was, well, let me think. When I was working in news, yes, there was, I feel like where we're at now has changed so much. It wasn't, it didn't used to be this way. It used to have like two hard divided camps. I'd never really experienced that when I was working so much in the world. And since I do this stuff with Frank, he's really the one that's out there. Like I'm just back home taking care of things. So I don't really think I've had any conflicts at all that I can think of. Babies, does anything ring any bells? No.
Praise the Lord.
But you're right. This, definitely would be some tough times to stand your faith in the world that we're living in now, that's for sure. Goodness. Anybody else?
Baby.
Oh yeah, well, yes ma'am, this young lady in the back.
But similarly, you all know about the tragedy that happened with Charlie Kirk and Frank Turek was there. And Keith has gone to see Frank Turek speak, and he has had friends that have been like, I don't really know if I want to go. So there's that reality. I'm like, Frank has security. So there is that reality. So sorry, I'm just saying nothing.
Well, that's okay, but baby, you brought a good point, because I remember when my buddy, who was a professor at NC State, I invited him to go because he seemed interested when he saw we were seeing me working. But he was afraid to go because he was scared he might lose his job. So, I mean, I'm not on the lines like the way, this guy is. So, people are watching him. So, it's a toughie. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you're from a tribe.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could talk about that experience and being Christian.
Okay, that's not really that tough because all those Coheri folks there in Sampson County, they follow the Lord. I mean, there's no, and again, that was the problem with the movie people, because they were thinking that, we should have, whatever it is, I don't know and I know that there are some tribes that have their own beliefs, but that whole community has always been Christian ever since I was a kid, since my parents, my grandparents, they were followers of Christ. Wow. So that's never been an issue as far as, I mean, again, there may be some out there that don't believe anything, but as a whole, everyone has a background in, Christian faith. Good question, though. Some people, yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, so you were talking about, like, butting heads with Frank Turek a little bit and, like, throughout it. I know you're the artist. How much say did you get over, like, the content matter? Like, if there were issues with
Oh, look at you with this astute question. Yeah. Well, what's a blessing? So, since, when you work with clients, most of the time you got to do their ideas, sometimes, oh my gosh, it's just the worst. Like, oh my gosh, is that an idea? But anyway, you got to try to find a happy balance. Frank is the invisible man. He's so busy, his concern is about the information and theology. Once that's right, I am free to do whatever. I never had a job like that. I am the art director, I'm the printer, I'm the animator, I'm the editor, I'm the everything. And so, of course, also because we're a small organization, so it is autonomy. I feel like sometimes I'm stressing my own self out because I got no one to report to. I'm just trying to make sure it's top-notch professional. So when they get this work, I want to make sure, my goal is for those who have no interest in this, at least they find the work visually appealing, so maybe it might open them up. That is an interesting drawing. Let me read that book after all. Or they might find something funny in the video that might make them, open up just a hair. So my goal is to make it as professionally, as top-notch as possible. And the work that I'm presently doing, because I have this autonomy, I'll put it up with anything in the market because it's, I'm a hack, it's top stuff. Yes, sir.
Do you go to a lot of universities like Frank Turek and talk to students about what you do, or is this like a rare?
This is a rare, because I know I've done it in churches, but this is my first time doing it in schools because of Mike, and I met him at, what was the thing that we met at the conference?
The Steadfast, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So because I met him and we were promoting the books, he came and asked me would I speak, but I would be open to it, of course. I mean, I hope I would not as feel nervous as I felt today. Did I look nervous? I certainly felt nervous. That's why my mouth went dry. Because you kept giving me the stink eye. I don't know what you were doing, but you were messing me up. Anyway, so no, this is my second time it's been here. Yes, young man.
I'm not sure how to ask. Do you see like us going to shorter messages, like the book is shorter, like people's attention span is not what it used to be? Do you find the effectiveness in making it shorter?
Dude.
Like video and stuff like that?
For Mount Man, that is a good question, man. Yeah, that is a very good question. Yeah, because again, coming from the world of journalism and commercial work, you want to capture attention as fast as you can. If you lose, I think attention spans now is like 8 seconds, which I don't even know how you can compete now, but I've seen some of these Christian videos from other production companies, it's like 8 minutes long. I said, who's going to watch this? Now, I can understand they're really into this. They'll absorb every piece of information, but I'm thinking for the general populace, they're going to be gone. So I'm thinking, I try to make these things as tight as possible, and sometimes Frank will give me a 6-minute thing. I said, Frank, okay. So I mean, that last one you saw, I got that down to 4 minutes, but that was 8 minutes before, and I'm just, we got to narrow this thing down because he's so concerned about the info. I said, man, we're going to lose the people's attention unless they're all academic people. So again, yeah, and that was my thing. To pitch this thing to be a 10-minute read, so if they like it enough, they'll pick up this. You know, this is hopefully is the gateway to this. In the same way with the next project, we're going to try to make them tight and concise. At least that's what I've learned. You know, try to make the places really tight.
So you agree we should try to package our apologetics in small bites, sound bites, more or less.
I do feel
conversation.
I do feel for the general populace who has zero. Yes, but if you're going to speak to people that's already into it, they want more information. I've seen. You guys ever been to a Apologetics conference? Man, they're like, again, I'm a nerd for comics and Star Wars. These people are nerds for Christ and information. Never seen anything like it. And so it's just a hunger there that, yes, they will 100% want that type of stuff. But yes, I'm trying, and Frank, I think, is trying to reach beyond academia. And so that's one of the reasons that we're doing what we're doing. And when again I say we, I don't hardly even talk to the dude. So it sounds like, you know, matter of fact, when we did these promo reels, his wife was saying, but gosh, it looks like someone had become, gosh, you guys might have such great camaraderie together. You're doing this, you're doing that. I said, that's just the way I edit it. It looks like we're having a good time. He couldn't wait. Are we done yet? Are we finished? He couldn't wait because he's got stuff to do. So it was the illusion that we have camaraderie. But no, I'm a yard boy. He'll let me clean his windows. But anybody else? We're going to wrap it up? Yep. Okay, Mike says we've got to wrap it up. Well, guys, thank you so much for letting me be a part. Yeah, all the best for you guys and you're working and those who are graduating, those who are doing what you're doing, and go out there and do it. And remember the Lord, remember the Lord and what you do as well.